Dear students, let us start the discussion on 2nd April 2016 newspaper. The first article is related to the Pathan Code paradigm. Now, if you trace out the India-Pakistan relationships and the pace of the negotiations, they were always influenced by the incidents, especially the terror incidents perpetuated by the non-state actors. This time, even after Pathan Code incident, the talks are not been stopped and the communication lines are still open and there is a pragmatism which is prevailing. So what are the lessons learned from this? If we carefully observe, the foreign policy strategy on Pakistan has shifted towards the minimal engagement and from grand strategies towards the practical operatives. It means today we are talking about the incidents which are happening and trying to solve the minimal issues between the countries rather than talking on grand issues, sensitive issues such as Kashmir. So the way forward with Pakistan is patience and incremental improvement. That is what is the strategy we need to rely on. So our past is hounding us to an extent, especially nationalistic grandstanding, rhetoric, saying that the talks and terrorism cannot go together. So these are still holding us back. But however, we can say that the allowing of the joint investigation team, it has played the dividends to India because the Pakistan has indirectly admitted that the terror perpetrators belongs to the nation. And the second thing is, it also has readily shared information related to the terror elements crossing the border to bring in new terror strikes. So these are all the positive developments in this relationship. Coming to the presidential rule, you know that Article 356 was misused from the days of Nehruvian era from 1959 when the Kerala, the first time the Article 356 was imposed. Till Uttarakhand, the story is one and the same. But however, the strategies are changing. In this case, SR Bommai case is a landmark judgment. So in the light of these things, let us try to understand what are the various decisions given by the Supreme Court and what are the actions of the different presidents from time to time. Now, if you carefully observe, in SR Bommai case, the Supreme Court has clearly stated that a possible manipulation of the vote cannot be a ground for imposition of the president's rule. And the second thing is, in the Bhuta Singh in 2005, what happened is this. No party gained the majority in the Bihar Legislative Assembly. Though Mr. Nitish Kumar was claiming that he has sufficient majority to form the government, the Bhuta Singh, without giving him a choice, has dismissed or has dissolved the Legislative Assembly. So in this case, the Supreme Court has clearly stated this as unconstitutional and indicted the governor for his hasty decision. So then after that, Bhuta Singh has resigned from the post of the governor. And in 1998, the President K.R. Narayanan has set a new precedent. In dismissal of the Rabri Devi government by NDA government led by Vajpayee, what the President said is, any decision made by the center has to be based on a sound reasoning and the state government shall be given a sufficient warning before taking this Article 356 route. And then, now the anti-defection law is coming in question. So in this case, the office of the speaker is the authority who can make a decision on disqualification. So it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes he's been accused of acting in favor of the government that lost the majority on the floor of the house. On the other side, he's been accused by the people who are said to be the defectors as not given a proper chance for them to express their views. So in this case, the solution is who has to be the authority in deciding the matters of the defection is the key. Next, coming to the Medical Council of India needs urgent therapy. Let's make a small understanding about the evolution of the Medical Council. So you know that the Medical Councils Act has come up in 1933 and as per that in 1934 Medical Council of India was established. Initially It is just a council for ethical oversight. Later in 1956, it has got the control over the medical education. So it was designated as an authority to maintain the uniform standards of medical education. And 1993, it became the advisory body to the government on establishing medical colleges and also providing for the matters related to its strength, etc. So if that means over a period of time, Medical Council of India has become all-powerful body with all the functions related to medical education and medical profession being consolidated into one hand. So in this context, whenever the power gets consolidated without checks and balances, there is a good chance it will lead to abuse. And Medical Council of India's chairman itself involved with the corruption charges. So in this context, a bill is introduced in the parliament, that is for National Commission for Human Resources for Health Bill. So a bill is submitted for the standing committee headed by Ranjit Rai Chowdhury, and whatever the recommendations given by this are said to be are the best, are hailed by everyone in the profession. So the first one is, as of now, the members of Medical Council of India are elected. Now nominated professionals will take up the management of the Medical Council of India. In this, along with this, the powers of the Medical Council of India will be separated into four distinct bodies. So it means, with regard to the maintenance of ethical standards and registration of doctors and giving the licenses and assessment of medical colleges, medical education and curriculum development, all these are being broken down and managed by the independent boards. So automatically it is going to decrease the power of the Medical Council of India in this context. So that is what is the major discussion in this article. Coming to the Modi government undermining democracy, Human Rights Watch has indicted the Modi government for its human rights violations. So what are the major observations over here? Now, the sedition charges section 124A and its misuse, politically motivated intimidation on the civil society, especially blocking their finances, the increased atrocities against the minorities and marginalized communities. These are cited as the reason by the Human Rights Watch to indict the Modi's government on human rights record. Coming to the, you know that Prime Minister Modi has pitched for making Lok Sabha and state polls simultaneously. Yesterday we have seen the discussion over here in Indian Express. Let's see the continuation of the discussion from S.Y. Qureshi, former CEC. What he says is, yes, conduct of the elections simultaneously will save the money and will also save the government from the implementation or from the model code of conduct, which will paralyze the administration in the states. So in this context, do we need to go for this? What the former CEC argues is, it is administratively impossible and constitutionally not feasible. For example, if Lok Sabha is dissolved prematurely, then democratically elected governments also need to be dissolved simultaneously, though they maintain the majority on the floor of the house. If it is the case, then it is not constitutionally valid. So in this context, the better way to address this situation is through electoral reforms. One, through the state funding of elections. The second is through reducing the cycle for conduct of the elections, that is, conducting all the elections in 1 or 2 phases. And the third thing is, election schedule has to be twice in a year. Half of the states will be, elections will be conducted along with Lok Sabha, and the remaining half will be in the middle of the Lok Sabha session. In that way, total election cycles can be reduced to 2. So these are the various recommendations made by the former CEC and the Law Commission of India. Now coming to the smart fabric, remember this. Now if your shut is able to understand the outside temperature, change the inside or else change its temperature to your convenience. If you are in a position to set the temperature of your shirt, don't you think it is too smart? That is what the smart fabrics are going to bring in. So the smart fabrics are filled with semiconductors and sensors which will perceive the changes in the outside climate and it will communicate and change accordingly. So these smart fabrics are going to be the future of the textiles. They are also called as functional fabrics, connected fabrics, textile devices, smart garments. These are the different names which are used for. So this is the future revolution. Now coming to the GM pulses, you know that India is importing the pulses and it's a huge import expense. So the Niti Aayog has suggested that India has to shift towards the GM crops. Now, then it was opposed by the Farmers Association saying that what India need to do is incentivizing the pulses production by providing for minimum support prices and marketing solutions. It is not the introduction of the GM crops. It is neither going to benefit the producers nor the consumers. It is going to benefit only the intermediary companies. So India has to move forward with the better marketization and better incentivization of the cultivation of pulses to decrease the import dependence. Now the Nuclear Security Summit, you know that Prime Minister Modi is in Washington to participate in the Nuclear Security Summit. So he has made three important points on the changing face of the terror. So the terrorism is associated with extreme violence to show its presence now. Added to that, the terror is more associated with our day-to-day life. It means it is very close to our vicinity. Previously, there is a distance maintained between the terror elements and our day-to-day life, but however, they have come close to us and they are using the latest technologies to perpetuate the terror. And the third thing is, the most dangerous part of the terror element is the state using the terror as a policy to perpetuate instability in the other countries. So in this context, there is a good chance that the nukes can fall into the hands of the terrorists. If state policy is to promote the terrorism, probably might have stated this statement keeping the Pakistan-sponsored terrorism in mind. So in this context, what are the steps which India has taken up to prevent the nuclear security threats? So in this context, the biomedical waste and poor management of the radioactive material in the laboratories and the various colleges, that is what is the major concern for the dirty bomb. So to prepare the dirty bomb. So India is improving the safety on this front. For example, cesium-134 is no more available in liquid or powder form. It is only available in the vitrified form, preventing its misuse. Added to that, India also pledged $1 million for the nuclear safety fund or nuclear security fund. So these are the developments. Coming to the American hug, this is a very important article. You know that there are three agreements which are pushed forward. One is LSA, SISMOVA, BECA. LSA stands for Logistic Support Agreement. So what it does is, it gives access to bases in India for logistic support, and India also gets the bases in United States of America. And SISMOVA stands for Communication Interoperability and Security Memorandum of Agreement. So what it does, it provides for systems interoperability. It means that it allows the US to provide communication security equipment in India. So whatever the gadgets which we are importing, C-17 Globemaster, C-130 Hercules, all these lack the proper encrypted systems. So it means if India needs access to the highly sophisticated encrypted information sharing, then India has to sign this SISMOVA agreement. And BECA, that is Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement for Geospatial Cooperation. It involves the sharing of terrain mapping data so that it can be used to identify the sensitive targets for the cruise missiles. So these are the three important agreements. If India goes forward with these agreements, what is going to happen? What is the analysis? Now, once India signs the LSA, then Indian bases will be used for United States of America, either for fuel filling or also operations, etc. Now, what are the chances India will involve with global conflicts, and what are the chances America will involve with them? So, it means India will be unnecessarily dragged into the American conflicts. Many a times, India and America interests may crossfire with each other, especially in the case of the Middle East. So it means that India has to become an unwilling partner of the United States to that extent India's choices are decreasing. And the second thing is, if you carefully observe, the United States of America is pitching India against China. So, it is not very much in India's interest. The India's interest is to maintain a stable and peaceful Asia. So, in these circumstances, so India's closure engagement beyond a point in the United States of America may not be India's interest, and it has to keep its choices open with regard to geopolitical decision making. That is what is the article talks about. And Kolkata flyover issue, that is this editorial, and Tata to UK, that is with regard to the withdrawal of the Tata Steel from UK. So European steel crisis, these are the articles. And you know that I have discussed these articles yesterday itself, so there is no point in continuing with them. Now, let's discuss the previous day's question. Now, the question is about biodiversity in Western Ghats under due stress. Identify the reasons and measures to protect the biodiversity hotspot. Now, so you can take, what is the intellectual support you can take over here, Mr. Gadgil's committee? And what are the reasons for the loss of the habitat? So, more and more the mineral exploitation you can talk about, and involvement or excessive exploitation of the resources by the local communities, habitat destruction, the climate change, the chemical pollution, the invasive species, especially the diseased invasive species. Next is hunting and other factors. All this you can talk about the loss of biodiversity over there. So what are the steps can be taken about? You can talk about the Madhav Gadgil committee and also various conservation techniques, environmental impact assessment. These points can be covered. So these 8 to 9 points will make the answer complete. Thank you very much.